The iron shackles bit into Olivia Bennett's wrists as she stood on the auction platform in the dusty town square of Oroville, California. Her father weeping drunk in the shadows while strangers called out prices for her like she was livestock. It was May of 1873, and the gold rush had long since faded, leaving behind desperate men and broken families. Her father, Thomas Bennett, had gambled away everything they owned at the saloon tables, and when he could not pay his debts to a man named Marcus Crane, the ruthless saloon owner had come to collect. Olivia was 20 years old, and she had never imagined her life would come to this. The sun beat down mercilessly on the wooden platform as men gathered around, some curious, others leering with undisguised interest. Marcus Crane stood beside her, his hand gripping her upper arm possessively, calling out to the crowd about her virtues as though she were a horse he was trying to sell. She kept her eyes fixed on the distant Sierra Nevada mountains, trying to pretend she was anywhere but here. "She cooks, she cleans, and look at that face," Marcus shouted. "Strong girl, too, worth every penny, gentlemen. Who will start the bidding?" Olivia felt her stomach turn. This could not be legal, but in a town where the law was whatever the man with the most money said it was, legality meant nothing. Sheriff Dawson was in Marcus's pocket, and everyone knew it. Her father had tried to protest, had even thrown a weak punch at Marcus when he came to take her, but two men had held him back while Marcus dragged her to this platform. A merchant called out a price. Then a rancher topped it. Olivia closed her eyes, fighting back tears. She would not cry. She would not give these men the satisfaction of seeing her break. Then a voice cut through the crowd, deep and steady. $500. The crowd fell silent. That was more money than most men in Oroville saw in a year. Olivia opened her eyes and searched for the speaker. A tall man pushed his way through the crowd, his boots kicking up dust with each step. He wore a black hat pulled low over his eyes, and his weathered duster coat had seen better days. But there was something about the way he carried himself that commanded attention. Marcus Crane's eyes lit up with greed. 500. Now that is a proper bid. Anyone care to top it? The crowd murmured, but no one spoke up. $500 was a fortune. Going once, going twice, Marcus called out gleefully. Sold, the stranger said flatly, pulling out a leather pouch heavy with coins. Olivia watched as the man counted out the money into Marcus's eager hands. Her fate had just been purchased for $500. She tried to see the stranger's face beneath his hat, but shadows obscured his features. All she could make out was a strong jaw covered in dark stubble and lips pressed into a grim line. Marcus removed the shackles from Olivia's wrists, leaving red marks on her skin. "Pleasure doing business with you, mister. She is all yours." The stranger finally looked up at Olivia, and she found herself staring into the most piercing blue eyes she had ever seen. They were the color of a summer sky, clear and bright, and they held an intensity that made her breath catch. He could not have been much older than 25 or 26. "Can you ride?" he asked her. She nodded, too stunned to speak. "Good, come with me." He turned and walked away, clearly expecting her to follow. Olivia glanced back at her father, who was still slumped against a post, unable to even meet her eyes. Anger and hurt warred in her chest, but what choice did she have? She gathered her torn skirt and hurried after the stranger. He led her to two horses tied outside the general store. One was a large bay stallion, the other a smaller chestnut mare. He untied the mare and handed her the reins. "This one is for you." "I do not understand," Olivia said, finding her voice at last. "You just paid $500 for me." "I paid $500 to get you off that platform," he corrected, swinging up onto his stallion with practiced ease. "Now you are free to go wherever you want." Olivia stared at him, certain she had misheard. "What? You heard me. You are free." He adjusted his hat, his blue eyes fixed on some point beyond the town. "I suggest you get on that horse and ride out of here before Marcus realizes I am not taking you to some ranch to work off your father's debt." "But the money," Olivia protested. $500. You just gave it away." "Money comes and goes." He finally looked at her again, and something in his expression softened slightly. "Your freedom is worth more than gold. Now mount up. We do not have much time." Olivia's hands shook as she grabbed the saddle horn and pulled herself onto the mare. She had learned to ride as a child, but it had been years since she had been on a horse. The mare shifted beneath her, sensing her nervousness. "What is your name?" she asked the stranger. "Lucas Peterson," he said. "Most people call me Luke." "I am Olivia Bennett, I know." Marcus was shouting your name loud enough for half of California to hear. Luke clicked his tongue and his stallion started forward. "We need to move. Can you keep up?" "Yes," Olivia said, even though she was not entirely sure. But something in Luke's manner made her want to prove herself. She urged the mare forward, and they rode out of Oroville at a steady trot. They rode for hours, leaving the town far behind. The landscape changed from dusty streets to rolling hills dotted with oak trees. Luke set a punishing pace, and Olivia's muscles began to ache from disuse, but she gritted her teeth and kept going. She would not complain. She would not slow him down. When the sun began to sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Luke finally slowed his stallion to a walk. They were following a creek now, the water sparkling in the fading light. "We will make camp here," Luke announced, dismounting near a cluster of trees that would provide some shelter. Olivia slid off her mare, her legs nearly buckling when her feet hit the ground. She grabbed the saddle to steady herself, grateful that Luke was busy tending to his horse and had not seen her moment of weakness. "There is hardtack and jerky in the saddlebag," Luke said, not looking at her as he unsaddled his stallion. "Help yourself." Olivia found the food and forced herself to eat, even though her stomach was still in knots. Luke worked efficiently, setting up a small camp with the ease of someone who had done it 1,000 times before. He gathered wood and built a fire as darkness fell, the flames crackling to life and casting dancing shadows across his face. She studied him in the firelight, this stranger who had spent a fortune to free her. He had a rugged handsomeness to him, with strong features and those remarkable blue eyes. His dark hair curled slightly at the edges beneath his hat, and his hands, she noticed, were calloused and strong. These were hands that knew hard work. "Why did you do it?" Olivia asked finally, unable to contain her curiosity any longer. Luke poked at the fire with a stick, sending sparks spiraling up into the night sky. "Do what? Pay for me, set me free. Men do not just give away $500 for nothing." He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the flames. "My mother was sold to pay debts once," he said at last, his voice low and rough. "I was just a boy, could not do anything to stop it. The man who bought her worked her to death in his saloon. She lasted 6 months. Olivia's heart clenched. "I am so sorry. It was a long time ago." Luke finally looked at her, and the pain in his eyes was raw and real. "But when I saw you on that platform today, looking at those mountains like you were trying to fly away, I saw her. I had the money. I could do something this time. So I did." $500 is a fortune," Olivia said softly. "What were you saving it for? A ranch? Some land of my own?" He shrugged. "It will still be there when I earn it again. You gave up your dream for a stranger. I can always earn more money." "You could not get your freedom back once it was gone." Luke pulled his hat lower over his eyes. "Get some sleep. We have a long ride tomorrow." "Where are we going?" Olivia asked. I am heading north to a ranch where I have work waiting. You can come with me until you decide where you want to go. Or you can head off on your own in the morning. Your choice." Olivia lay down near the fire, using her arms as a pillow. The ground was hard and uncomfortable, and she was exhausted beyond measure, but sleep did not come easily. Her mind kept replaying the events of the day, from her father's tearful confession about his debts to standing on that platform to this moment, lying under the stars with a man she had just met. Lucas Peterson had saved her. He had given up everything he had been saving for to set her free. She owed him a debt she could never repay, and yet he acted as though he had simply done what anyone would do. But Olivia knew better. Most men would have either ignored her plight or bought her for their own purposes. Luke was different. She turned her head to look at him. He sat with his back against a tree, his rifle across his lap, keeping watch. His profile was strong and noble in the firelight, and Olivia felt something stir in her chest. Gratitude, certainly, but something else too. Something she was not ready to name. When morning came, Olivia woke to find Luke already up and moving, packing their camp with quiet efficiency. He had let her sleep, she realized, standing watch all night to keep her safe. "We need to keep moving," he said when he saw she was awake. "Marcus might send men after us when he figures out I am not bringing you back." That thought sent a chill down Olivia's spine. Would he really do that for $500? Absolutely. He will want either you or his money back. Luke handed her a canteen. "Drink, then we ride." They traveled hard for 3 more days, moving steadily north through the California wilderness. Luke taught her things as they rode, pointing out landmarks and teaching her to read the land. He showed her which plants were safe to eat and which to avoid, how to find water, how to cover their tracks. "Why are you teaching me all this?" Olivia asked on the 3rd day as they watered the horses at a stream. "Because you need to know how to survive out here," Luke said simply. "If something happens to me, you need to be able to take care of yourself. Nothing is going to happen to you." He gave her a small smile, the first she had seen from him. It transformed his face, making him look younger and less careworn. "I hope you are right, but it is better to be prepared." That night, they camped in a small valley surrounded by pine trees. Olivia had grown more comfortable with the routine of making camp, and she helped Luke gather firewood and prepare their meager meal without being asked. They worked together in companionable silence, and Olivia realized she felt safer than she had in months, maybe years. "Tell me about the ranch where you are going to work," she said as they sat by the fire eating. "It is called the Double R Ranch, owned by a man named Robert Rogers. He is a fair man, pays his workers well. I worked for him before, a few years back, before I went off chasing gold like a fool." Luke shook his head ruefully. "Wasted 2 years of my life in those mines." "Did you find any gold?" "Enough to save $500, he said with a wry smile. "For all the good that did me." "You did a good thing with that money," Olivia said firmly. "A noble thing, maybe, or maybe I was just being selfish, trying to save my mother through you." He stared into the fire, his expression distant. "Either way, it is done now." "What was your mother's name?" Olivia asked gently. Margaret Peterson." His voice softened when he spoke her name. "She used to sing to me when I was small, had the most beautiful voice. Sometimes I can still hear it if I close my eyes. She would be proud of you." Luke looked at her, and something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went beyond words. They were both survivors, both scarred by loss and hardship, both trying to find their way in a harsh and unforgiving world. "What about you?" Luke asked. "What are you going to do? Where will you go?" Olivia had been asking herself that same question for days. She had no family except her father, and she could never go back to him. She had no money, no prospects, no home. The future stretched before her like a vast, empty desert, and she had no map to guide her. "I do not know," she admitted. "I have nothing. No one." "You could work at the ranch," Luke suggested. "They always need help in the kitchen with the laundry. It is honest work and Robert would treat you fair." "You mean stay with you?" Olivia's heart beat a little faster at the thought. "Stay at the ranch," Luke corrected, but his eyes held hers. "I will be working there too, but you would have your own place, your own wages, your own life." It was a lifeline, and Olivia grabbed it with both hands. "Yes, yes, I would like that." Luke nodded, and was that relief she saw flash across his face. "Good. We should reach the ranch by tomorrow evening." They did reach the Double R Ranch the next evening, just as the sun was setting. The ranch sprawled across a wide valley, with a large house at its center and several outbuildings scattered around it. Cattle grazed in the distance, and Olivia could see men moving about, finishing their day's work. A man emerged from the main house as they approached. He was in his 50s with gray streaking his brown hair and a weathered face that spoke of years spent outdoors. His eyes were sharp and assessing as he looked them over. "Lucas Peterson," the man said, his stern face breaking into a smile. "I hoped you would make it back." "Good to see you, Robert," Luke said, dismounting and shaking the man's hand. "This is Olivia Bennett. I was hoping you might have worked for her." Robert's eyes flicked to Olivia, taking in her worn dress and tired face, but there was kindness in his gaze, not judgment. "Can you cook?" "Yes, sir," Olivia said quickly. "And clean and sew and tend a garden." "My wife could use help in the house," Robert said. "We have been short-handed since our last girl ran off to get married. If you are willing to work hard, you have a place here." "Thank you," Olivia said, relief flooding through her. "Thank you so much, Martha," Robert called toward the house. "We have a new girl." A woman appeared in the doorway, plump and smiling with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. She looked Olivia over with the practiced eye of someone who had managed a household for decades. "Well, bring her inside then," Martha said. "The poor thing looks ready to drop. Come along, dear. Let me show you where you will be staying." Olivia glanced at Luke, suddenly reluctant to leave his side. He had been her constant companion for days, her protector and guide. The thought of being separated from him felt wrong somehow. "Go on," Luke said gently, as though reading her thoughts. "I will be around." Martha led Olivia into the house and up a narrow staircase to a small room under the eaves. It was simple but clean, with a narrow bed, a washstand, and a trunk for belongings. "This will be yours," Martha said. "Meals are at 6 noon and 6. You will help me with cooking and cleaning and tend to any other tasks that need doing. Sundays are your own, and you will earn $20 a month plus room and board. Does that suit you?" $20 a month was more than Olivia had dared hope for. "Yes, madam. That suits me very well." "Good. You look exhausted, child. Get some rest and we will start fresh in the morning." Martha patted her arm kindly. "You are safe here. Robert runs a decent operation and no one will bother you. I will make sure of that." When Martha left, Olivia sank onto the bed and finally let herself cry. They were tears of relief and exhaustion and gratitude. A week ago, she had been standing on an auction platform, her life in ruins. Now she had a job, a place to sleep, and a chance to start over. And it was all because of Lucas Peterson. She fell asleep still dressed, too tired to even remove her boots. The next morning, Martha woke her before dawn. The work was hard and constant, but Olivia threw herself into it gratefully. She helped prepare breakfast for the ranch hands, then cleaned the house from top to bottom. She scrubbed floors, washed windows, beat rugs, and prepared meals. Her hands grew raw and her back ached, but she did not mind. It was honest work and she was earning her own way. She caught glimpses of Luke throughout the day. He was working with the horses in the corral, breaking in new mounts. Olivia found herself watching him whenever she got the chance, admiring the way he moved with such confidence and grace. He handled the wild horses with patience and firmness, never losing his temper, never being cruel. On Sunday, her first day off, Olivia woke late and dressed in the one clean dress she owned. Martha had kindly helped her wash and mend her clothes, and while they were still worn, they were at least clean. She went downstairs to find the house quiet. Martha and Robert had gone to church in town, leaving her alone. She stepped outside into the warm sunshine and found Luke sitting on the porch steps, whittling a piece of wood. "Good morning," she said, suddenly shy. "Morning." He looked up at her and smiled. "How are you settling in?" "Well. Martha is kind and the work keeps me busy." Olivia sat down beside him, careful to leave a respectable distance between them. "Thank you again for bringing me here." "You have thanked me enough," Luke said. "You are earning your own way now. You do not owe me anything." "I owe you everything," Olivia said softly. "My freedom, my life, everything." Luke set down his whittling and turned to look at her fully. "Then pay me back by living well, by being happy. That is all I want." Their eyes met, and Olivia felt that stirring in her chest again, stronger this time. It was more than gratitude. It was admiration and respect and something deeper, something that scared her a little. "Would you like to take a walk?" Luke asked. "There is a creek about a mile from here. It is peaceful there." "I would like that very much." They walked through the fields, past grazing cattle and under wide blue skies. Luke pointed out different plants and birds, sharing his knowledge of the land with the same patience he showed the horses. Olivia listened, storing away every word, hungry to learn. When they reached the creek, they sat on the bank and watched the water flow past. It was peaceful here, away from the bustle of the ranch. The only sounds were the babbling water and birdsong. "I have been thinking," Luke said after a while, "about what comes next." "What do you mean?" "I still want that ranch. My own land, my own cattle. It will take me a few years to save up the money again, but I can do it." He picked up a smooth stone and skipped it across the water. "I am not getting any younger. Time I settled down, made something of myself." "You already are something," Olivia said. "You are a good man. That counts for more than land or cattle." "Maybe." He glanced at her sideways. "What about you? What do you want for your future?" Olivia had not let herself think that far ahead. She had been so focused on surviving each day that the future seemed like a distant dream. "I suppose I want what everyone wants. A home, security, maybe a family someday." "You will make someone a fine wife," Luke said, and was there a hint of wistfulness in his voice? "I do not know about that." What man would want a woman who was sold on an auction block? The bitterness crept into her voice despite her best efforts. "Any man with sense," Luke said firmly. "What happened to you was not your fault. You were a victim of your father's weakness and Marcus's greed. That does not define you." "You truly believe that?" "I know it." He turned to face her fully, his blue eyes intense. "You are strong, Olivia. You did not break on that platform. You did not give up. You survived, and now you are building a new life. That takes courage." No one had ever spoken to her that way before, with such conviction and respect. Olivia felt warmth spread through her chest, and she realized with a start that she was falling for this man. Lucas Peterson, who had saved her without expecting anything in return, who treated her like a person of worth, who saw her strength instead of her shame. But she pushed the feeling down. Luke had made no indication that he saw her as anything more than someone he had helped. He had given up his savings to free her, but that did not mean he wanted anything more from her. She would not burden him with feelings he did not share. The weeks passed, turning into months. Summer blazed hot and bright across the California landscape, and Olivia settled into the rhythm of ranch life. She grew close to Martha, who taught her new recipes and skills. She earned the respect of the ranch hands with her hard work and pleasant manner, and she grew closer to Luke. They fell into a pattern of spending Sundays together. Sometimes they rode out to explore the surrounding countryside. Sometimes they just sat and talked, sharing stories of their pasts and dreams for their futures. Luke told her about his childhood, about losing his father to a mining accident when he was young, about watching his mother struggle and eventually be sold. Olivia told him about growing up with a father who loved cards more than his daughter, about the slow descent into poverty and debt, about the day Marcus Crane came to collect. "You ever think about your father?" Luke asked her one Sunday in late August as they sat by their creek. "Sometimes," Olivia admitted. "I am angry at him for what he did, but I also pity him. He was weak, and his weakness destroyed both our lives." "Have you thought about going back, trying to reconcile?" "No." The word came out harder than she intended. "He made his choice. He chose the cards over me. I cannot forgive that." Luke nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most hurt us the worst." "Is that why you never talk about finding a wife?" The question slipped out before Olivia could stop it. "Because you are afraid of being hurt." Luke was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe partly. But mostly I did not think I had anything to offer a woman. I have been drifting for years, working odd jobs, chasing fool's gold. What woman wants a man like that?" "A woman who sees beyond the surface," Olivia said softly. "A woman who values character over wealth." "And where would I find such a woman?" Luke asked, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "She might be closer than you think," Olivia said, her heart pounding. Was she really doing this? Was she really being this bold? Luke turned to look at her, and the intensity in his blue eyes made her breath catch. "Olivia, I am just saying," she continued, unable to stop now that she had started, "that any woman would be lucky to have a man like you. Someone honest and kind and brave. Someone who does the right thing even when it costs him everything. I did not do it expecting anything in return. I know. That is what makes it so remarkable." Olivia gathered her courage. "Lucas Peterson, you are the finest man I have ever known." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted to, and brushed a strand of hair back from her face. His fingers lingered on her cheek, and Olivia leaned into his touch without thinking. "You are making it very hard for me to keep my distance," Luke said, his voice rough with emotion. "Then do not," Olivia whispered. He kissed her then, soft and gentle, as though she were something precious and fragile. Olivia's eyes fluttered closed, and she kissed him back, pouring all her gratitude and admiration and growing love into that kiss. It was her first kiss, and it felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, Luke rested his forehead against hers. "I was trying so hard not to fall for you," he admitted. "I did not want you to feel obligated to me because of what I did." "I do not feel obligated," Olivia said. "I feel grateful, yes, but this is more than that. I care for you, Luke. I have cared for you since that first night when you told me about your mother, maybe even before that." "I care for you too," Luke said. "More than I thought possible, but I have nothing to offer you. I am just a ranch hand with empty pockets." "You have yourself," Olivia said. "That is enough for me." They kissed again, longer this time, and Olivia felt as though her heart might burst with happiness. She had been so lost just months ago, so afraid and alone. Now she had found something she never expected to find: love. They kept their relationship quiet at first, stealing moments alone whenever they could. But it was hard to hide their feelings, especially from Martha's sharp eyes. "You and Luke are courting," Martha said one day as they kneaded bread together in the kitchen. It was not a question. Olivia felt her cheeks heat. "Yes, madam. Good. He is a fine young man and you deserve happiness." Martha smiled at her warmly. "Robert and I have been hoping something would develop between you two. You are good for each other. You are not upset." "Upset? Why would I be upset? I like love stories, and yours is a good one." Martha winked at her. "Just keep doing your work and we will have no problems." As autumn painted the hills in shades of gold and orange, Luke began to talk more seriously about his future plans. He had been saving every penny of his wages, slowly rebuilding the nest egg he had spent to free Olivia. "It will take me another 2 years, maybe 3, to have enough for land and cattle," he told her one evening as they watched the sunset from the porch. "But I am going to do it. I am going to build something real." Olivia corrected softly. "We are going to build something real." Luke turned to her, hope blazing in his eyes. "Does that mean what I think it means? If you are asking whether I see a future with you, the answer is yes." Olivia took his hand in hers. "I want to be part of your dream, Luke, if you will have me. If I will have you." Luke laughed and pulled her close. "Olivia Bennett, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. I love you." It was the first time he had said those words, and they washed over Olivia like a benediction. "I love you too," she whispered against his chest. "So much." That winter, Luke asked Robert Rogers for permission to court Olivia officially. Robert gave his blessing with a hearty handshake and a knowing smile. Martha immediately began planning, talking about wedding dresses and flowers and celebrations. "We cannot afford a big wedding," Olivia protested, but Martha waved her off. "Nonsense. We will have a proper celebration, even if it is small. Every bride deserves that." On a cold February day in 1874, Lucas Peterson and Olivia Bennett stood before a minister in the small church in town and pledged their lives to each other. Olivia wore a dress Martha had helped her make from beautiful cream-colored fabric. It was simple but elegant, and when Luke saw her walking down the aisle, his eyes filled with tears. The whole ranch turned out for the ceremony, along with various townspeople who had come to know and respect the young couple. It was a far cry from the audience that had gathered to watch Olivia on that auction platform 9 months earlier. These people came out of love and support, not greed or curiosity. "I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you for all the days of my life," Luke said when it was time for his vows, his voice ringing clear and strong. "You saved me as surely as I saved you, Olivia. You gave me something to work for, something to hope for. You are my future, and I will spend every day trying to be worthy of you." Olivia's eyes brimmed with happy tears. "I promise to stand by your side through whatever comes," she said. "To build a life with you, to support your dreams, to be your partner in all things. You gave me my freedom, and then you gave me your heart. I will treasure both for the rest of my life." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Luke kissed her thoroughly, to the cheers and applause of everyone gathered. They were married. They belonged to each other now, freely given, freely chosen. Martha and Robert had prepared a feast back at the ranch, and the celebration lasted well into the night. There was food and music and dancing, and Olivia felt like she was living in a dream. Luke whirled her around the makeshift dance floor in the barn, both of them laughing like children. "Happy?" he asked as they spun together. "Happier than I ever thought possible," Olivia said honestly. They spent their wedding night in a small cabin on the edge of the ranch property. Robert had given it to them as a wedding gift, a place of their own until they could afford their own land. It was modest, just 2 rooms, but it was theirs. Luke carried Olivia over the threshold, and she laughed at the traditional gesture. He set her down gently and cupped her face in his hands, looking at her with such love and tenderness that she felt her heart might overflow. "I love you, Mrs. Peterson," he said. "I love you, Mr. Peterson," she replied. They made love that night, gentle and slow, learning each other's bodies with reverence and care. Olivia had been nervous, uncertain what to expect, but Luke was patient and kind, making sure she felt safe and cherished every moment. Afterward, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his arms wrapped around her. "I keep thinking about that day on the platform," Olivia said softly. "If you had not been there, if you had not spoken up, my life would be so different now." "Fate," Luke said. "I believe we were meant to find each other." "You really think so?" "I do. Why else would I have been in that town that exact day? I had been on my way north for a week. I only stopped in Oroville because my horse threw a shoe. If that had not happened, our paths never would have crossed." Luke pressed a kiss to her forehead. Someone was watching over us. Olivia thought about his mother, Margaret, and wondered if she had a hand in bringing them together. It was a comforting thought that love could reach across the veil between life and death to guide their steps. The years that followed were good ones, though not without hardship. Luke and Olivia worked side by side, both at the ranch during the day and on their own dreams at night. They saved every penny they could spare, adding to Luke's slowly growing nest egg. In the fall of 1875, Olivia discovered she was pregnant. She told Luke one evening as they sat by the fire in their little cabin, and he pulled her into his arms and wept with joy. "A baby," he kept saying. "We are going to have a baby. Are you happy?" Olivia asked, even though she could see the answer written all over his face. "Happy does not begin to cover it," Luke said. "You have given me everything, Olivia. A home, a family, a reason to get up every morning. I am the luckiest man alive." Their son was born in May of 1876, during a thunderstorm that rattled the cabin windows. Martha attended the birth, coaching Olivia through the long hours of labor with steady encouragement. When the baby finally arrived, squalling and red-faced, Luke cut the umbilical cord with shaking hands. "He is perfect," Luke said in wonder, cradling his son for the first time. "Absolutely perfect." They named him William after Luke's father. Little William had his mother's dark hair and his father's blue eyes, and he quickly became the center of their world. Luke was a devoted father, coming home from long days of ranch work to help with the baby, walking the floor with William when he cried, singing him the lullabies his own mother had once sung to him. Olivia watched her husband with their son and fell in love with him all over again. He was so gentle, so patient, so full of love. She had known he would be a good father, but seeing it in action moved her beyond words. "Thank you," she told him one night as they watched William sleep in his cradle. "For what? For being you. For being the man you are, for loving us so well." Olivia took his hand. "I know I have said it before, but I need you to know. You saved my life, Luke, not just that day on the platform, but every day since. You showed me what love is supposed to be." "You saved me too," Luke said. "I was just existing before I met you. Now I am living." By the time William was 2 years old, Luke had finally saved enough money to buy land. It was a modest plot, 160 acres in the hills north of the ranch, but it was theirs. Luke registered the deed with pride, and they began the backbreaking work of building their own ranch. Robert Rogers helped them, lending them tools and equipment and even some cattle to get started. "You have been good to me," Robert said when Luke tried to thank him. "This is just me paying it forward. Build something good here, Luke. Make this land prosper." They built a small house first, more sturdy than the cabin but still modest. It had 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a sitting room with a front porch that looked out over the hills. Olivia planted a garden and Luke built fences and corrals. They worked from dawn until dusk, falling into bed exhausted every night, but they were happy. This was theirs, built with their own hands, earned through their own labor. They named their ranch the Peterson place, simple but honest. Luke bought more cattle as he could afford them, slowly building his herd. Olivia took in sewing to earn extra money, and she also started selling eggs and vegetables in town. Every dollar went back into the ranch, building their future bit by bit. In the winter of 1878, Olivia discovered she was pregnant again. This time it was twin girls, born in August of 1879. They named them Rose and Lily, and they were identical in every way except temperament. Rose was bold and adventurous, always getting into mischief, while Lily was quiet and thoughtful, preferring to watch the world from the safety of her mother's lap. Luke was outnumbered now. One man in a house full of women, but he loved every minute of it. He would sit on the floor and let the twins climb all over him while William, now 4 years old, tried to show off his rope tricks. Their house was loud and chaotic and filled with love. "Our family is complete," Olivia said one evening as they watched their children play. "It is perfect," Luke agreed. "Everything I never knew I wanted. Not everything was easy. There were hard winters when the cattle struggled and money was tight. There were droughts that threatened their crops and their livelihood. There were illnesses and injuries and the constant worry that came with trying to make a living from the land. But they weathered every storm together. When times were hard, they tightened their belts and worked harder. When Luke got discouraged, Olivia reminded him how far they had come. When Olivia felt overwhelmed by the endless work of running a household and helping with the ranch, Luke stepped in to help without being asked. They were partners in the truest sense, equal contributors to the life they were building. Luke never lorded his role as husband over Olivia, and Olivia never used his past sacrifice as leverage. They respected each other, supported each other, and loved each other with a depth and constancy that grew stronger with each passing year. William grew into a serious, hard-working boy who idolized his father. Luke taught him to ride and rope and handle cattle, passing down everything he knew. The twins grew into bright, lively girls who kept their mother on her toes. Rose wanted to do everything her brother did, begging to learn to ride and work with the cattle. Lily preferred helping her mother in the house and garden, though she had a gift for working with the horses that surprised everyone. The ranch slowly prospered. By 1883, 10 years after that fateful day in Oroville, Luke had built a respectable operation. He had a good-sized herd of cattle, several horses, and enough income to live comfortably. They would never be wealthy, but they were secure, and that was all Olivia had ever wanted. One Sunday afternoon in June of that year, the family took a picnic to their favorite spot by the creek. William, now 8 years old, ran ahead with the twins who were 4. Luke and Olivia walked hand in hand, carrying the picnic basket between them. "You ever think about that day?" Luke asked as they watched their children play in the water. "The day we met, sometimes," Olivia admitted, "but it feels like another lifetime, like it happened to different people." "In a way it did. We are not the same people we were then." Luke set down the basket and pulled Olivia close. "You were a scared girl on an auction platform. I was a drifter with no purpose. Look at us now." "We built a good life," Olivia said, resting her head on his shoulder. "A better life than I ever dreamed possible. Do you have any regrets?" "Only one." Olivia looked up at him. "I regret that I cannot go back and tell that scared girl on the platform that everything is going to be all right. That the man in the black hat stepping forward to bid on her is not another nightmare but her salvation. That in 10 years she will be standing by a creek watching her children play, married to the love of her life, happier than she ever thought possible." Luke's eyes shimmered with emotion. "I would tell the drifter with empty pockets that the $500 he is about to spend is the best investment he will ever make. That the woman on that platform will become his whole world. That she will give him a reason to stop drifting and start building. That she will love him better than he deserves. You deserve everything, Olivia said fiercely. Everything good in this world. I have everything, Luke said. Right here. They kissed, sweet and gentle, while their children's laughter rang out across the water. It was a perfect moment, the kind that defines a life. Not grand or dramatic, just simple and true and full of love. Years continued to pass. William grew into a fine young man, tall and strong like his father, with the same steady character and work ethic. At 18, he announced his intention to court Sarah Mitchell, the daughter of a neighboring rancher. Luke approved of the match, and Olivia liked the sweet, hard-working girl who made her son's eyes light up. The twins grew into young ladies, though Rose remained a tomboy at heart, preferring working cattle to sewing samplers. Lily became a talented seamstress and helped her mother with the sewing business, which had grown over the years to include customers from several surrounding towns. In 1891, when Olivia was 38 and Luke was 43, William married Sarah in a beautiful ceremony at the Peterson place. It was a full-circle moment for Olivia, watching her son pledge his love with such joy and confidence. No shadows hung over this union, only hope and happiness. "They remind me of us," Luke whispered as William and Sarah shared their first kiss as husband and wife. "They have it easier than we did," Olivia replied. "No painful past to overcome, just love and a bright future." "That is what we wanted for them," Luke said. "A better start than we had." William and Sarah built a small house on the far edge of the Peterson property. They were going to work the ranch together, learning from Luke with the plan to eventually take over. Luke was slowing down now, his joints stiff from years of hard work, and he was grateful to have his son ready to step into his role. In the spring of 1892, Sarah gave birth to a baby girl. They named her Margaret after Luke's mother, and when Luke held his granddaughter for the first time, tears streamed down his weathered face. "She would have loved to meet her," Luke said, his voice thick with emotion. "She knows," Olivia said softly. "Wherever she is, she knows, and she is proud." They had more grandchildren in the years that followed. William and Sarah had 3 more children, and the Peterson place rang with the sounds of childhood once more. Rose eventually married a cowboy from Montana and moved north, though she visited often. Lily surprised everyone by falling in love with a schoolteacher from Sacramento. They married and settled in town, where Lily opened a successful dress shop. Luke and Olivia grew old together, their bodies slowing but their love never dimming. They would sit on their porch in the evenings, holding hands and watching the sun set over the land they had built together. "Do you remember what you told me that first night?" Olivia asked one evening when she was 60 and Luke was 65. "When I asked why you freed me." "I said I saw my mother in you," Luke replied, "that I had the money and could do something this time." "You did more than something," Olivia said. "You changed the entire course of my life. You gave me a future when I thought I had none." "And you gave me a reason to have a future," Luke said. "We saved each other, Olivia." She could not argue with that. They had saved each other in all the ways that mattered. In the autumn of 1905, Luke fell ill. It started as a cough that would not go away and grew into something more serious. The doctor from town diagnosed pneumonia and said all they could do was keep him comfortable and hope for the best. Olivia nursed him with tireless devotion, just as he had cared for her through her own illnesses over the years. She sat by his bedside day and night, holding his hand and reminding him of all the beautiful moments they had shared. "Do you remember our first kiss by the creek?" she asked him one evening as the lamplight flickered. "I remember everything," Luke said, his voice weak but clear. "Every moment with you was a gift. You have to fight," Olivia urged. "We have more moments to make, more sunsets to watch, more grandchildren to meet. You cannot leave me yet." "I am trying," Luke said. "But Olivia, if it is my time, I need you to know something. Do not talk like that." "Listen," he insisted, squeezing her hand with what strength he had left. "That day in Oroville, when I saw you on that platform, something in my chest told me to act, to bid, to save you. I thought it was about my mother, about making amends for what I could not do for her. But now I understand it was more than that. It was fate bringing us together. You were always meant to be mine, and I was always meant to be yours. Finding you was the whole purpose of my life." "Lucas Peterson, you stop that right now," Olivia said through her tears. "You are not going anywhere. You hear me? You fought too hard to build this life to give up now." And Luke did fight. He fought through the fever and the terrible cough and the weakness that tried to drag him down. He fought because Olivia believed he could, because his family needed him, because he was not ready to let go of the beautiful life they had built. He recovered slowly, taking weeks to regain his strength. Olivia never left his side, and when he was finally able to sit up and take solid food, she held him and cried with relief. "I told you," she said. "I told you that you could not leave me yet. You always were stubborn," Luke said with a weak smile. "I learned from the best." Luke recovered fully, though he never quite regained all his strength. He gave over the daily running of the ranch to William, content now to be an advisor rather than the one doing the heavy work. He and Olivia spent their days tending the garden, playing with their grandchildren, and enjoying the fruits of the life they had built together. On a warm afternoon in May of 1913, 40 years after that fateful day in Oroville, Olivia and Luke sat on their porch watching their family gathered in the yard. William was teaching his youngest son to rope a post. Sarah was serving lemonade to a group of grandchildren. Rose had come down from Montana for a visit with her family. Lily had arrived from Sacramento with her husband and children. The Peterson place was full of love and life and laughter. "Look at what we made," Luke said softly, gesturing to the scene before them. "Not just this land or this house, but them, all of them. That is our legacy, Olivia. That is what will live on long after we are gone." "We did good," Olivia agreed, leaning her head on his shoulder. "We took our pain and our hardship and we turned it into something beautiful." "I would do it all again," Luke said. "Every hard year, every struggle, every moment of doubt. I would do it all again to end up right here, right now with you." "As would I," Olivia said. "You are my miracle, Lucas Peterson. The day you stepped forward and bid on me was the day my real life began." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, watching their family. The sun was warm on their faces, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of the roses Olivia had planted decades ago. It was perfect peace, earned through years of love and labor. That evening, after everyone had gone home and the ranch was quiet, Luke and Olivia prepared for bed. It was a routine they had followed for nearly 40 years, comfortable and familiar. Olivia brushed out her hair, now completely silver, while Luke changed into his nightshirt. "Olivia," Luke said suddenly. She turned to look at him. "Yes, thank you. For what? For choosing me, for staying by my side, for building this life with me, for loving me better than I deserved." Luke crossed to her and took her hands in his. "I have had a good life, a blessed life, and it is all because of you." "We chose each other," Olivia corrected gently. "And we built this life together. I could not have done any of it without you." They held each other close, and Olivia felt the steady beat of his heart against her cheek. It was the same heart that had made the split-second decision to save a stranger, the same heart that had loved her faithfully for 4 decades, the same heart that beat in rhythm with her own. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Luke replied. forever and always. They climbed into bed, and Luke wrapped his arms around Olivia as he had done every night for nearly 40 years. She fit perfectly against him, two pieces of a puzzle that had found each other against all odds. Lucas Peterson lived to the age of 82, passing peacefully in his sleep in the winter of 1919 with Olivia by his side. The whole region mourned his loss, for he had been respected and loved by all who knew him. But none mourned him more than Olivia, who had lost her partner, her love, her everything. At his funeral, Olivia stood before the gathered crowd and shared their story. She told them about the auction platform in Oroville, about a cowboy who gave up his dreams to save a stranger, about a love that grew from ashes into something beautiful and strong. "He was the finest man I ever knew," she said, her voice steady despite her grief. "He gave me my freedom, and then he gave me his heart. We had 46 years together, and I treasure every single day. He taught me what love really means. Not just words or grand gestures, but showing up day after day, choosing each other over and over, building a life together one moment at a time." Olivia lived for another 8 years after Luke's passing, surrounded by her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. She never remarried, saying that she had already had the great love of her life. She spent her days tending her garden, sewing, and telling stories of the cowboy who saved her to anyone who would listen. On a May morning in 1927, Olivia woke feeling peaceful and content. She dressed carefully in her best dress and walked through the house she and Luke had built together. She touched the furniture they had chosen, the pictures on the walls, the door frame where they had marked their children's heights as they grew. She walked outside to the garden, now tended by Sarah, and sat on the porch swing Luke had built for her birthday 50 years earlier. The morning sun was warm on her face, and she closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her. She saw Luke as he had been that first day, stepping forward out of the crowd with determination in his eyes. She saw him teaching her to read the land, laughing as they danced at their wedding, holding William for the first time. She saw decades of sunsets watched from this very porch, of hands held and dreams shared and love expressed in 1,000 small ways. William found her there an hour later, a peaceful smile on her face. She had passed quietly, sitting in the sun in the garden she loved. They buried Olivia next to Luke on a hillside overlooking the Peterson place. The entire region turned out for her funeral, for she too had been loved and respected. But it was William who gave the eulogy, standing before the crowd with tears streaming down his face. "My parents taught me what love looks like," he said. "They taught me that love is not just a feeling but a choice you make every single day. They came from nothing, from pain and loss and hardship, but they built something beautiful together. This ranch, our family, their legacy of love. That is what they leave behind." He looked at the two graves, side by side, and smiled through his tears. "They are together now. My father saved my mother from an auction platform 54 years ago, and they spent every day after that saving each other in 1,000 different ways. That is the story I will tell my children and grandchildren. That is the legacy that will live on." The Peterson place remained in the family for generations, passed down from William to his children and beyond. The story of Lucas and Olivia became family legend, told and retold around dinner tables and campfires. It became a story about love conquering hardship, about choosing goodness even when it costs you everything, about two broken people finding wholeness in each other. In a small cemetery on a hillside in Northern California, two graves stand side by side, weathered now by time and elements. The inscriptions have faded, but the words can still be read if you look closely. Lucas Peterson, 1837–1919. Beloved husband, father, grandfather. He lived with honor and loved with his whole heart. Olivia Bennett Peterson, 1853–1927. Beloved wife, mother, grandmother. She was freed and chose to stay, building a life of love, and beneath both stones, added by their children, the same words, forever together, forever in love. On warm spring evenings, when the sun sets over the hills and paints the sky in shades of gold and pink, some say you can still feel their presence there. Two souls who found each other against all odds, who built something beautiful from nothing, who loved each other so completely that even death could not truly separate them. Their story became more than just family legend. It became a testament to what love can do, how it can transform lives and heal wounds and create beauty from ashes. From a terrible day on an auction platform to a lifetime of devotion, from $500 that bought freedom to riches beyond measure in love and family. Lucas and Olivia Peterson proved that sometimes the greatest investment you can make is in another person's freedom, and sometimes the greatest fortune you can earn is love, freely given and faithfully kept. Their legacy lived on, not just in the land they claimed and the ranch they built, but in the hearts of everyone who heard their story and believed, even for a moment, in the transformative power of love.